So like years ago, when I first started working, I started a budget, and on and off throughout the years, I would start and stop until recently, because of my awesome CPA wife, I started budgeting again. And if you think budgeting is a waste or it's hard to do, listen, I have 15 tips that are helping me start and stick to a budgeting habit in my household. Okay, so before I can get started, please subscribe to my channel now and hit that little bell, because every week I put out content on this channel to help business owners like you get the most out of your digital marketing efforts. So every Tuesday, I put up random tips about money, health, and personal development. And then on Thursdays, join me on the hashtag Marketing Masterclass, where I dive into the nuts and bolts of digital marketing. Okay, so the reason I wanted to start talking about a budget is because I think it's one of those fundamental things about money that keeps us in this mindset that we're being entrapped, that we're being limited to what we can spend. And that's really further from the truth. Really, a budget is just a plan for your money. And it's literally just being able to allow yourself the freedom to now know where every dollar is being spent. So I wanted to go through these list of tips because they were really cool tips that I read on an article by Dave Ramsey that talks a lot about these budgeting tips, and it's given me some guidance and things that I've kind of found that were important to know as I started to revamp my budgeting efforts. So here we go with number one. So budget to zero before the month begins. Guys, that doesn't mean that we should have zero money in our account. What that really means is we're giving every dollar a name. And it's a really cool concept that Dave Ramsey has come up with, and I'll give you a link in my show notes here, to talking about how to allocate everything in your budget based off of your expenses. And aside from the expenses, anything else. So it all comes down to zero. So before the month ever starts, try to allocate that budget, create categories, everything outside of your expenses, and then everything that goes out of that after that. All right. So everything that goes through your expense items, everything you've got to spend on, and then when that extra money that's there, assign categories for that. Some information there again in your show notes to give you some examples. So guys, doing the budget together is important. And here's a couple of tips here on this. So if you're with a spouse or a live-in partner, someone who you're sharing, it could be even a roommate, get together and create a budget together. It's a very important process, especially for couples that are intimate together, your spouse. It's really a really important activity to do together, and I really want to strongly recommend that we all do this together so that we can get bonded in our spending, because it's one of the things that really causes the biggest stressors in partnerships is money. So it would be important for us to be on the same page. That doesn't mean also that if you're single you can be eliminated from this step. Get an accountability partner. Find someone that'll hold you accountable to your budget and always check with you on that. So every month is different, and every month there are different types of expenses. Think about a month that might have very little activity, especially a month like maybe February, January, where you're trying to recoup from the Christmas. And a month like Christmas, where you know that that's going to be a big month, that you know you're going to have some expenses. Every month is different. That's why every month you should create a budget so you know maybe if you have an allocation for savings or for Christmas or for gifts, that you know one month you're going to allocate some extra money in that account so that you can actually spend without having to go into debt. And a lot of these budgeting efforts get us to do just that. Paying off debt is probably one thing that I should take into consideration. I still have a little bit of debt. I've got a student loan I'm still trying to pay off. But prioritizing that is a way to really look at how to pay off debt. And I'm going to make another video that's going to talk a little bit about a debt solution called snowballing or debt stacking, where you can actually take some emphasis on how to pay that debt off, because it's one of the first things that you'll find that you're overspending based on fees and based on some finance charges that you just can't avoid, and because you still have to pay off what you have overspent on. Avoid the debt trap. Avoid loans and credit. So if you have other types of debts that are small credit lines, student loans that are potentially small student loans, you can prioritize those. And again, that's another important step that I'll go deeper into in another video, because this is really one way where we can just start to see that quickly get out of hand, and budget really would have just been the one thing that would have kept us from doing that. So start with those important categories first. Guys, it's food, clothing, shelter. It's a simple math solution, right? There's only so much money you'll make, and there's only so much money that you can spend. And so when you know that you have got to cut some of the extra spending that you're doing in order to pay off debt, that's an important thing that you should consider when you are creating a budget. So make sure that you're looking at those spending habits and look and see where you can kind of create and cut out some of the unnecessary things, some of the things that maybe you can spend later on in terms of like eating out or extra cable bills, gym memberships, any type of memberships, app memberships, things like that, that you find that are just small incrementals that they add every month to that bottom line. So making a schedule in your budget item is important too, because there's times when if you're on a paycheck, on a paycheck income where that a certain day of the month you'll have so much funds in your account, that's going to be important to know the allotment of when you can pay certain line items in your budget, right? So look at that. Look and see when maybe you need to plan on when to go grocery shopping. Put that into your budget item and make sure you put a date there saying, well, this is a date that we have for this amount to be paid. Because you know that when your income comes in at a certain time of the month, it's not going to be offset by too much in that budget item that you have to pay, and now you can't pay it because you don't have enough income. So it's important to look at those dates. Yeah, guys, so tracking your spending, I never thought that it would be that important, but it can be huge, especially if you're in a limited income, to see if your budget items are actually matching your spending. In marketing, or just if you wanted to go to work out, to lose weight, tracking what you're doing to seeing if it actually takes effect. Same thing with marketing, seeing how many ad dollars you put into that ad line for that ad spend. Is it really necessary? What am I getting out of it? What's the ROI? What's the return on that investment? But in this particular case, tracking is so huge. And you know what? It's also an emotional thing, because if you know that your budget is working, or you've actually over allotted on a budget item and you're spending a little bit less than you planned, that's a win, right? Or in reverse, if you're spending too much and that budget item needs to be adjusted, that's something you need to look at. So celebrate the wins, even if they're small, and then make the adjustments that are necessary. All right, and so creating a buffer in that account is labeled typically as a miscellaneous item in your budget. And you need to be careful with putting too much into this bucket. These are just expenses that just happen without planning, but you need a place to put them. And it's a good place for you to focus on to make sure you don't see regular spending in that buffer zone or in that miscellaneous item, to see whether or not that keeps popping up, that you should create a category and expense for that. So create a buffer in your budgeting system. So number 10, cutting up those credit cards. This one's a tricky one, especially if you have a lot or you're used to spending on several. And this is just becomes a habit. It's something we think that we're getting like rewards from. You'll notice that it really depends on your paying off habits. If you've got a card you pay off every month, great. You're not really incurring any additional charges or any additional penalties and interest. Okay, that's not a bad habit. That's an even better habit is knowing that every cash that comes into your account, you're spending appropriately. You don't need the credit cards, right? You're not going to need those. So cutting those up is important. We all live in this day and age where online purchasing is very important, or just even using them as we book different events. So I know credit cards are important. Just as long as you pay those off, keep it to one. Maybe just keep it to one credit card. But if you're able to cut them all, that's even important because you can use debit cards just like a credit card. The best advice I've heard Dave Ramsey give on this is go down straight to a debit card and cut all your credit cards off. Dave Ramsey talks a lot about what's called the envelope system, and you may have a budget item where you're just spending way too much on. Here's a good one. Our kids used to go to Quick Trip, when they went to school, and again, they're kids, right? But again, just think about like these small fast food costs that you go to. They're quick. Sometimes you're hungry. You're in the middle of going back and forth picking up kids, or you're just going out grabbing something to eat and you're hungry. Track that and use cash. Use an envelope system, because when you allot, let's say $100 for the month, and you take out $100 in cash, put it in that envelope system, if it runs out and there's no more, you should stop spending, and that'll keep you honest to that spending habit. So there's another tip for you, using the envelope system to limit those expenses. So there's a couple of online budgeting tools that I love. I actually found two of them. One of them that we currently use is called Mint, and it's by Intuit. So go to mint.com, and I'll have those links in the show notes. Mint's a great free tool that you can use. It has its own app. You can use your desktop, or you can use an app, and it allows you to create a budget. It allows you to sync your accounts to, so it's very, very simple to use. It's very robust. We love it. There are small little caveats to the app that you just have to learn how to use. The other one is called EveryDollar, and I'm also going to put another link in my show notes about that budget item. And it's something that this budgeting tool that Dave Ramsey recommends. I'm going to try that because I think it's something to look at. They have a free portion and they have a paid portion, and I want to see what the comparisons are, and I'm going to give another video on that so that we can kind of go dive into a budgeting tool. So those two, right? Mint.com and EveryDollar.com. Stop comparing your spending habits to someone else. Even if they're in your same income bracket, everyone's spending and personal finance is different. There are different reasons. There are different psychological reasons as to why we spend and the need to spend. Some of us have better habits than others. Some of us have more need than others. We're all trying to compare ourselves to the Joneses. Be content with your own purchases. Try that. And so goal setting is important because it really ties into the emotional need to sacrifice. If you're going to pay a student loan off, what's the need for that? Why is that important? Paying off your house, paying off large debts. Maybe it's something that once you're done, just focus on the goal. What's important to that goal for you, and revisit that. Sometimes when you are budgeting, it doesn't have to be something that you do every single month, because that can be tiring. Maybe you set up quarterly goals and times that you and your spouse or your accountability partner or your partner you guys can go visit on, and you can look at your goals and you can say, how close are we getting? Is this a time for us to have a small celebration, or do we need to hunker down and look at the last 3 months of spending and see if we need to tweak something in order to make this work a little bit faster? So focus on your goals, do them by quarter. Okay, Okay, so if you're new to budgeting or you haven't done it for a while, take it easy on yourself. This can take 2, 3, or 4 months to kind of get this down, especially if you tried it 1 month and you stop for several months and you're done. You need about 3 to 4 months of consistent tracking and consistent expensing to know what your spending habits really are like. Think of it this way. This is a lot like dieting. When you track everything you eat every day, you really start to notice where your calories are. And I've done it personally. I've done Weight Watchers, or I've done several other apps that track your food. I've done it, and it's an incredible eye-opening experience. Same thing with your budget and tracking your expenses. So this is one part that I feel like would be really good for you, just to kind of give yourself some grace, because it's not gonna be easy to do. But once you get the systems down, it becomes a habit, just like anything else. You create the habit, and you just know this is part of your routine of how you deal with your money. All right, so now that you've seen what way I'm approaching budgeting, tell me what you think. I'd like you to give me a 10 if you think it's something you'll try, or a 1 if you're going to wing it and do it on your own. Leave those in the comments. There's really no right or wrong answer, just curious what my viewers think. Thanks for watching the video today and getting all the way to the end. I hope this brought you some value, and if you liked my video, please give me a thumbs up, and if not, you can give me a thumbs down so I know what my viewers will want in the future. Please don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget, there is more content on the way next Tuesday and Thursday. So please share this to someone you think you could use it, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.